I think that we could. I mean, not so much. Copy. Really make it.
Right. Same as what we should forward you.
Do they have that as well? Do they have that? Interesting. How did our?
Internship.
Specific contacts.
I think
to do that.
the direction we're headed, especially with the building on bridge, I think is all wants to move us in that direction.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'll just be the management of it at that
for
point.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So
Okay,
getting those pieces in mind.
if we could, I'm gonna do a roll call.
Bob,
Do we need to do a motion first? Start the meeting?
I'll make a motion to start.
Okay, I'll second it.
There we go.
All in favor of starting the meeting?
Aye. Aye, Captain.
Okay, roll call. So, Robert. Lawrence,
Present.
April,
Present.
Bob.
Here.
And
So
I'm-
it's not hearing on the.
I'm here, so that gives us a quorum. We're, Lanika is not able to be here as an excused absence and haven't heard from Carlos. Approval of tonight's agenda.
Bob, do you still hear us?
Yes,
He's good now.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll
Okay.
second.
can you hear me all right?
Yes. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Okay, we have the October 24th meeting minutes.
So I have a few things that I need to fix,
Okay,
just grammar, mistakes. So one was approved September 26th, and I approved the September 26th.
for,
Percents in, RK high school report and middle school report. It is the first paragraph under what's going on at middle school. Percents, I should change that to percentages. And then, in attendance, frequent, I have to change that. Okay, down in finance committee, report for September. With unanimous vote, I have to change that. That's it.
You making those changes now?
I'm making them right now. If I would have made the changes before I started telling you, then I would have forgot what I'm, sorry,
James.
that's it.
So you've included, I just want to be sure, because again, I went back and looked at the video. You've included Aaron and Kara's reports in the minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, because it seemed like on a previous minutes that some of this ancillary stuff that we get was not on there.
Well, see, what I was doing before is I was just kind of, taking pieces out,
Yeah, no, I know,
Okay.
and you still kind of are,
and
yeah,
I can, and this past one, I just basically copied and pasted.
okay.
But before I was kind of editing, taking
Yeah.
pieces out.
Well, that was just sort of the question.
I
Should
thought,
we-
what am I doing?
Yes, we probably, because it's open meeting, we probably need to have this ancillary available.
Right,
So,
okay,
okay, but I see it here, but I just hadn't seen it.
okay, you had, okay,
The old
what, say that
ones.
again?
Yep.
What did you say though? You had seen it, but you hadn't seen it?
In the old ones,
Right.
I didn't, that wasn't in them.
They're attached.
I didn't
Oh,
see,
okay, so I have to mention, you want me to mention it's attached or?
I
report?
think we need to somehow know that they're
One or
there,
the other.
right?
Okay,
Or what you've done here is fine,
okay,
whatever's the easiest, but the point is that we. The
Attach
report,
it.
yeah, we can't just say Aaron gave a report,
no, I never did
Kara
that,
gave a report,
I never do that,
things are going great.
no, I never did that. I respect that they took the time to write that.
Well,
Said
just,
it,
just
so-
including it, I think is the easiest way to do it.
The way you're doing it now.
Okay, the way I'm doing it now.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we get approval of the minutes or as
I'll make
changed?
them,
Motion to approve the minutes from last month with the adjustments we just discussed.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Public comment. I'm not sure if we wanna, is that building? Cause we don't have we don't, Bob, did you wanna talk about the building? Hey, Carlos. You're on mute, Bob. Bob, you're on mute.
Robert Beatty and I met with architects this last week, and the plans are pretty straightforward. And
I have them spread on the table, Bob.
oh, that sounds good. You wanna touch base with in reference to the drawings then?
No, you go ahead and they can take a look at them. Just talk about the meeting.
Well, it was very positive. We need to get back with them concerning solar or geothermal to make sure that the electrical engineering and the electrical for the transformer goes into P&M to be able to get an adequate transformer. Other than that, it seems like we're at the end of the year, we'll be ready to, they'll be ready to coordinate putting out some bids. And there was some question about the who, and Robert, you have some contractors that may be involved with that. This is the contractors' time when they're very busy, and the prices seem to be a lot higher than they have been in the past, but we need to get some bids in order to be able to truth that pricing. But we should be able to have things ready, and they should have a package ready for the proposals to go, to request for proposals to go out here by the end of the year.
Yep, and so they were going to reach out to CES for contractors that are on the CES list. Because if they're on the CES list, they don't necessarily have to go out to bid. It doesn't need to be competitive, they're pre-approved contractors. But I do want to get a couple of other contractors. Contractors that work for APS tend to be a little higher because they have to wait 90 days to get paid on their invoices. And so we're gonna shop the bids, and they promised to have the full package ready for me to share with legislators.
Oh,
And so they thought a week or two, and then we talked about geothermal, and so they're going to now investigate it. And Bob, I'd like to make sure we get Carlos to the next meeting. And
Yes,
you're gonna.
and I reached out and touched base with Carlos after the meeting,
Good.
and to let him know, since he had committed to really looking into the geothermal and the solar issues.
And you're gonna help facilitate some consultants?
Yes, we're gonna facilitate a couple of consultants that will take us not only to inform the engineer what we need, but the full capacity of installing geothermal, solar, and possibly get some grants mobilized. I see that this would be, because we talked yesterday last night with some other folks, and they've gone to, in some schools in other parts of the nation, they've gone to school getting understood.
Right.
And so I just envisioned one building, but it could go further than that.
And so APS now includes solar in all their new buildings. And there was talk about a solar garden. And so that's just a big, and so I've asked for legislation to do solar covering through this parking lot that would provide shade and also solar. And so I'd like to include that in the investigation. And
I know one thing, P&M needs to obviously be involved, because sometimes they only allow so much juice on the system, so get everything rolling, we've got this great thing coming in, and they're like, nope.
But if we involve people that are doing this on a daily
Yeah,
basis,
they should know.
they should know and help us take care of all the details, so we don't have to become. Right, and Master said it.
Yeah, I just know that there's a limited number
Mhm.
on a circuit.
One quick comment. When you're ready, everybody ready? Yep. When it comes to project and construction, you can always pre-purchase things, so. I'm not sure if the consulting engineer is part of his or her consultation is saying, hey, you can buy these expensive things now, avoid larger costs and the cost increases that might be coming because of the tear up or whatever.
good point.
Yeah, so there are things in the construction industry that are anticipated to go up.
It will.
Yeah. I would have to look at that.
That's pretty much true in every industry, isn't it?
Pretty
Pretty much predicted it's gonna.
But it's gonna go up because of what's his name?
The new president of the United States.
Yeah.
It'll go up because of the tariffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but with this project, I'd have to look at a drawing. You probably have some HVAC system. I'm just,
Anything else, Bob? Anything else, Bob, on the building?
No,
Okay, great.
My owl is not.
So early warning system. Robert, you wanna tell
Yeah.
us about our?
Yeah, and so there was a demonstration regarding the early warning system at the last meeting.
Right.
And so, that early warning system has been actualized. And so, the goal for attendance by the state is 68%. And so we went through, and, prioritize students that had less than 50% attendance, and they've been withdrawn, disenrolled this week. And so I think the number is gonna end up to be 12. And we're going to relook again on Tuesday. We have a Tuesday meeting where those members are working on a team. And so it's not any one individual. And you'll see when we look at the data, we have where to go to get 68%. That's 68% is 90% attendance. And that's the target states they have there. So it's important to get.
So there are 12 have been put out, or 12 are on, you said 12,
So I said 12 were identified.
identified.
And so there'll be 3 left to do meetings. Okay. Okay, would you say?
Right. But then we'll be looking at it on Tuesday.
Right, and so we just need to be aware. I would say that it sent a shockwave through the school.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that attendance is critical,
Uh-huh.
that we're watching it.
Yeah.
And now, when we did it, there was a group of us sitting there, so people pulled up, what. And there are some students that have a lot of absences, but they're passing all their classes. They're making sure they get their work in. I wouldn't say there's a lot of those, but there were a couple of them, and those students. Students that have 50, 55% attendance and are not passing their classes. Because the goal is to increase graduation rate. And the number of credits, because the number of credits means that they'll graduate within the 4-year program. Right? And that in attendance are the goals that were set by the PED with the MRIs. There is no goal to keep revenue at a certain level. So we're continuing to try to bring kids in, but those students that are not attending, not passing their classes, are being disenrolled. We have the opportunity to re-enroll next semester with a meeting and a contract. So these are the key attendance issues from last year. And so over the summer, we did meetings with all of those students, all of those parents, and they understood the consequences moving forward. And so I can't say everybody was thrilled, but by disenrolling, we're helping them transfer to another school. The grades go with them. And so if they were close to passing a couple of those classes, they have the opportunity to pass those classes closely with other schools. Mark Armijo is taking several of them, and they will be able to earn some of the credits. So it wasn't pleasant, but it's
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Was it a large percentage, 2%, 3%? Yes.
And so there were 50 students that had extreme attendance issues. We dropped 12 of them. Right, and so there were 240 students on the list. So it's not huge, but they're not helping us meet our goal. Yeah, quarter of those. Now, out of the 50, 15 of them were ninth graders. I think 21 of them were 10th graders. Right, and so if they're going to graduate in 4 years, that attendance situation needs to change now. Right, there were 3 12th graders. And so students taking it seriously that have been here. So the idea is to get ninth graders to change their behavior.
Right.
Yes.
And both of your reports discussed that, correct? Yes.
So just one, it just hit me as we were kind of talking about this, but do we need to, and maybe you already have, is there any requirement, I'm thinking of the Yazi Martinez thing, and are we under any kind of limitation with it then that fits under that criteria? Or we're not giving them what they need to get? You know, like looking at the demographics or looking at the, whatever the heck characteristics of the kids that are disenrolling
So through the early warning system, we had many interventions, so.
already. Like,
Yes, so I think it's
From the
covered,
first week.
right,
right, well, even before they came.
yes, so
Okay.
meetings before, it was tracking their opinions,
Home visits, so we exhausted the list, so I don't think that that's a.
It wasn't news to them,
No.
wasn't a surprise.
Even though-
Well, but then again, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and to me, you know, the Yawzi Martinez and everything like that, really, we can't support them if they're not here.
Right,
And a lot of the stuff that we need to do to support them to really kind of overcome those boundaries, are done here at school.
right.
And so the interventions that, you know, I was talking about, we're reaching out to them, we're trying to figure out what we can do. We're adjusting schedules to see if they maybe need a late start for a late arrival or something like that, and to no avail, we're at that point.
Behavioral health we have on campus that we've offered, and I mean, they're not utilizing the
Oh,
resources.
no.
And behavioral health is based on early warning system.
Yeah.
And so there were examples of students that were not getting here on time, were given late arrival, and then still had 45 absences. And there were 90 days.
Yeah, right.
Not even 90 days, they were 70.
Right. Yeah, just to look at data, so if we look at it, at the end of the year, we look at the kids who we did put out, are they all, you know, do they have all fall in some category? Which means we as a school need to understand that going in. We don't offer something that fits those kids. We need to change what we're doing to fit those, whatever it is, but just kind of on a higher level, analyzing, is there any pattern? Is there any consistency in the kids that are out? So that,
no, right,
just to educate
no, absolutely.
you
Good
guys.
point. I think that our population of students across the board is very similar, so, I mean, they all kind of fit those categories that fall under Yahoo. So I think that we have really looked at all of that,
Yeah.
but to your
No, I
point,
know.
I think it's always good. to
Just at least look at it and so
Absolutely.
that we can say, yes, we are aware that that isn't why.
Right.
Why.
Right. No, I hear you.
Okay.
Any other comments on this issue?
No,
Middle school update.
And if you drive by the school the other day, that's all kids running around there. Done.
Wish we had more. But I'll start there, actually, with student enrollment, we're currently at 63. And it's not for lack of trying, we've had a couple students, withdraw, outside of, attendance issues. We had some family issues that took some students, and unfortunately, had we been able to maintain, we'd be looking at possibly 80 students right now, but that's, Monday, we.
Kind of what we started.
Correct. Monday, we had 2 students with. So we lost 2. And then over the week, we added 1 6th grader, 1 7th grader, 1 8th grader. Back, now we're actually 1 above where we were. In the week, I have 2 more interviews scheduled again with families, but we're continuing to work with that. And I mean, as Robert shared with the EWS, early warning system, the problem that we're running into is that we can't support our students if they're not there. And so really trying to work with families, really have a meeting, I've been meeting with our attendance coach this week with some families, and unfortunately, we can't really do much for that. So it's a tough conversation, but like I've been sharing with families that they're always welcome back. And we just need to kind of figure out a couple things that, inevitably there's situations outside of their control as well, family situations. And the middle school is a little bit different because they rely on their families to get them to school, that they don't really have that luxury of driving themselves to school. So, but we're continuing to work on that. I will continue to be optimistic and trying to get our numbers up. Very optimistic just by the fact that I've been having at least 1 new student every week. So I'm going to continue to kind of.
Do they say how they heard them?
A lot of it's just because of the community, relatively close to them. We've had a couple of kids that were in other area schools that this wasn't the right fit for them. Meaning
So
with
they
families.
know that the school's there.
Correct. Yeah, so that's coming, they're coming to us, they're seeking us out. I meet with the families and the students before they even get a package. In fact, they have to meet with me before we get an registration packet. We let them know what the school's about, and, so far. Very excited about that, this stuff to lose kids. Because we do put a lot of time and effort into those students, we really do. And so for us, it's just as hard on us as it is for some of those families. But the teachers now, we're preparing for the end of the semester, believe it or not, we've got about 18 days from today. To get to the end of the semester, a lot of stuff is going to be taking place in the next 18 days. Teachers are wrapping up their course of sequence within their curriculums. So we're going to next step is going to be hitting the middle of the year assessments within the STAR assessments that'll be taking place in the beginning of December. Then right after that will be semester finals. And so ending your projects, different things like that. So we're getting close to the end of the semester. But we wrapped up formal observations as I shared last month. We were kind of in the middle of observations. I will tell you that has been a breath of fresh air for me, especially at the middle school. Getting into the classroom, seeing our students, seeing our teachers in action. It's great. These teachers are really phenomenal group of people. Very impressed with their work. And I hope we get to see that in some of the assessment that we see moving forward. Really nothing new to report regarding staff. We've maintained the staff, so happy with that. Attendance, as we've shared, it's been kind of, it's been a rough week across the board. I'm not gonna lie about that, but we're meeting with families. I think we're having good conversations. And just really hopeful that we can, kind of turn the tide for some of these kids. But ultimately, like I shared with some of the family, it's gotta be, we can't work harder than them. And so we need their support in getting their kids to school. Happy to do what we can to support them, but we need them bring their seats in their class. Nothing new to report with the campus, really. Gates are up. We still need there's a couple of technical difficulties with the new paging system at our gate. So hoping to get that. But our cards are in now, so that's very nice. And then with regard to the Equity Council, we haven't had any formal meetings yet just because of the work that's taking place across the board. So, I mean, although there are no formal equity work, the equity work is taking off. And I've shared with Kara that I really want equity to be a part of a standing, whether it's in a staff meeting or department meeting, what are we doing to meet the equity in those areas? And then they could report to me, which I could bring to you all as well.
Okay.
So really trying to do that. Any questions?
The fencing is fully operational.
We got little Kings there. So it does work, we're able to use our ID cards to kind of scan in and get in there. They are timed, so I was getting there to work. It doesn't work, so I have to use my key. But our little paging button to hit the intercom doesn't work. The camera that works there works perfectly fine. So Kelly, secretary, has been able to kind of monitor the camera and act that allow this when she sees people come
Is she doing it from Lawrence's area or someone?
from the main Pacific Middle School. Yeah, we've had security go out there and update our system out there. So that from her system there in the. It's actually all linked to the security camera. She could go up and click on it. Box the gate. Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thanks, Aaron.
Yes, sir.
Let's get those bodies.
I know, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Sure, so I'll start with the Gallup McKinley School experiential site visit that we attended. So the site visit itself was about how these schools in Gallup are using pathways to structure. So they're using these pathways in order to make teaching and education more relevant to the students. So when I say a pathway, for example, their high school had 4 pathways that students could go down. They chose them their freshman year. One of them was engineering, business, one was media arts. I can't remember what it was. But essentially a student picks a pathway and then all of the teaching and the learning for the 4 years revolves around this common theme. So if it's business, all the courses they take have a business theme. So it's cross content. So teachers are teaming across content in order to create lessons that all relate back to a business theme. So there's a business teacher at each grade level who, for example, one of the grade levels, they were doing subscription boxes, right? So the business teacher came up with the subscription box, and then all of the teachers, English, math, history, they were all working together to create lessons in their content areas that supported this creation of this subscription box. So like the math.
What's a subscription box?
So like, if you go online now and you wanted to order, fresh meats that come in every month, there's different ones that you can do online. They do perfume, you can order anything in the subscription box.
Dog trees.
Dog treats. So they is to meet your need.
So it's not a physical box with stuff in it?
It is,
Oh, okay.
it is. So they're
Okay.
popular now. You can do subscription boxes for anything.
For some people.
For some people. So.
Yeah,
So-
I'll save it for later.
Go ahead. Yeah, it was really cool. So then the math teacher, they were actually, one of the lessons they were doing was creating these boxes. So they were using geometry and measurement and figuring out what the content of these boxes were gonna be for each specific student. And then they were figuring out how they were gonna create these boxes, and they were doing them on the computer at this point. Then the English teacher was talking about business and insurance. So they were doing a whole lesson on different types of insurance for business and liability and stuff like that. So it was all the way across. It was actually really cool. So once we started thinking in those terms, we did that had a similar population to ours. About 200 students they had. It was a middle and high school in a very rural area, but they only had one pathway and it was business. So their whole school was doing the business pathway. And we started seeing a lot of similarities of what we have in here and how we could link it into a business pathway or any pathway at this point, but business seemed to be like the most welcoming of all contents and all whatever kids are interested in doing. So even if they want to be an engineer or a welder, it still fits into a business model. So thinking about education through that lens and having these cohorts go through and work on common goals. So that's kind of our got us thinking about how we could use some of that model here. You know, they talked about how it made teaching relevant and how it made learning relevant for all of these students. Because suddenly all the students were working towards something by the time they got to their 11th grade year, they were creating their own, like small businesses. They were given $100 and they would either have to team up or work independently to create a product, and then they would have a big market, and then they were able to see selling their goods. And so it just kept evolving and evolving as you kind of work through each grade level. So, I mean, it seems
How long
like,
have they been doing it?
5 years.
5, 6 years.
So they've got at least one group that has graduated here.
Yes, and we saw a video of one of us who went on and became an engineer and talked about, you know, how impactful it was. But the middle school, the school that we saw in Raymond was, only a couple years in, so they were still building. But it was powerful. They were all very, invested in what they were doing, and it seemed just having this focus and this theme was a huge driver, and they were seeing a lot of success, a lot of
What was the attendance?
way better. Everything went up, the rigor went up, attendance went
Really?
up, everything,
Scores went up?
scores went up,
Yeah, grading scores.
because everything was starting to be taught at a higher level because everything was.
I love that. Over there, I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about Gallup
Yeah.
lately, in a whole.
It's very
Community.
innovative.
To get these kids to come out of their shell out there is tough as it is, and they have so much pressure on them.
Yes,
And it was a beautiful thing because when we got there, they had student ambassadors welcoming
Yeah.
all the students.
For them to
And they were
actually
all
have a
in
purpose.
blazers, welcoming us at the doors, telling us, and, you know, we would ask questions and they would answer them. We'd even go into some of the classrooms and then they had ambassadors within each class. But as visitors walked into the class, they got up and told us what they were doing. You could walk around and talk to any student, and they would be able to tell you what they're working on, where they're at, everything else like that, their progress. And
That's
I
beautiful.
went out of my way to try to
Beautiful.
find someone who was just really quiet. Looked like
see if
they
it was
knew everything.
staged or not.
Right. And they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And it was pretty impressive. It was quite impressive.
Yeah,
They don't speak much out there, so it's good. It's so refreshing to see the
It was.
kids just come out and communicate like that with each other.
absolutely.
They're getting along and they understand their traditions and their culture. Oh, it's
I
just
think that was
beautiful.
one of the big takeaways.
And then
that
for an
our
outside
brought
group
back
to
too.
come in and be inspired by it,
Mhm.
that's
It really was.
good stuff.
Especially in Rama, I mean, they have Zuni, and then they also have,
They go through
students from
so
the
much
Navajo.
there, yeah.
Yeah, from the Navajo reservation, so it's a mix of
Oh,
students there.
that's just wonderful. I'm glad you guys went out there.
Yeah, it was really powerful. So those are meetings that we're continuing now and ideas that we're continuing
That's
to kind
very
of think
special.
through how we can implement something like
Oh,
that
yeah.
here. Yeah,
So could you talk about who went? Because it was a big.
yeah, so it was, of course, Aaron and I, Clyde went with us from CTE. Cindy O'Neill, who is part of the innovation grant, or the innovation zone. Lori Hickox, who is our and capstone teacher. And, yeah, Alan Prieto, who's one of our social studies teachers. And then we had Christina, I never know how to say her last name, Mancha. She's our math teacher. So we had a mix of
High school.
all high school. Because the idea is that we would implement, you know, maybe starting with a freshman cohort and trying to build from there. But there were tons of schools in attendance, you know, we met some other educators from around it was around New Mexico. Any questions about that?
I just think it's a beautiful cut. It's just special.
Yeah,
It's very special.
right, I agree.
I really appreciate the whole stuff. Investment, timelines, and they
DGS. And community,
Yeah. I think, it's nice to see education and teaching through a different lens, you know, a different perspective, a different way to approach it that's actually working. Because I mean,
Exactly.
we've been in education a long time, you rarely see that, so it was. So yeah, attendance, same thing with your early warning system, Robert already kind of hit on that, so I won't dig too deep into that.
Feel free to add anything else, because it's a big step for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard, this whole, disenrolling students is not an easy thing to do, so it's been a hard week for all of us, and, you know, you don't want that for them, but you hit a point where you realize we're not helping. So they do have the opportunity to come back, which hopefully some of them do on contract. It has shifted, I think the tone across campus, we've heard from teachers, I was in a meeting right before I came in here, and word spread, they're all saying students are talking, they're all getting here. So they said, I saw students I hadn't seen in weeks.
They're coming early.
Oh, they all started letting each other know, like, you better show up. So, I mean, in that way, I think it's gonna help some.
That's always interventions, you know.
Yeah.
Some.
3 years. You know, 3 years.
Right.
So
Good
finally,
opportunities.
drawing the line, I think is the
Like
night.
all the kids know.
Yes. Our enrollment as of the 19th was 250 at the high school. But that wasn't including the ones that got dropped in the last couple days. And we had 2 applications in progress. Like Aaron said, a lot of students are dropping out of other schools for whatever reasons, similar reasons probably, and they're starting to want to enroll. So we're kind of weeding through those, applications as well. Our
Who
campus,
does that? I'm just curious, the process. Who actually does that? So I'm a parent and my kid Carlos doesn't want to stay at Rio Grande and 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 Rio Grande.
office, they talk to Francine, our office manager.
Okay.
She collects the information essentially. We have one right now where a student got kicked out of Rio. He brought a weapon. So that was disclosed in her conversation, so she's asked for all the paperwork. She let the parents know that we would be reviewing and then having a meeting before before the student would be able to enroll or to enroll. So the next step is that we, have a meeting, with the deans and the assistant dean and Robert,
I see, that's the group that.
right? And
But it starts with one of them and then it comes
Mhm.
forward,
Uh-huh.
because I mean, it may be that this isn't the right fit, and so, but
Sure.
then it comes to the group.
so then we meet and then we decide, or sometimes we'll bring them back on contract, relating to whatever issues they were having at the last school. So it just depends, but that's kind of the.
Yeah, I was just
process.
curious kind of who it is that's overseeing that process, making those decisions. And
It's, Lawrence, myself, Pete, Robertson, sometimes we bring the social worker in, if needed, depending. Yeah.
So if a student comes in, how is the acceptance from the other kiddos? So if a student like that comes in, is he kind of like a leader, a gang leader? How do they react to it? Is it difficult? Is it
The students
like
are
an
so,
initiation of some sort, you know?
no, it depends on the student and the situation.
depends on
It's
the
so
student.
varied, you know,
This guy's Mr. Tough Guy from Rio Grande.
They're not, they're
Okay,
just some
good.
scared kid who took a weapon and shouldn't have and got caught and got kicked out, and so it just depends. I mean, we have some students who came out of juvenile.
Bush City, they're
They
fitting in well.
well, you know,
Good.
nobody knows what happened besides.
Nobody knows.
We keep it,
Okay.
yeah, we don't let the students know.
Yeah, no,
And we give them a fresh start, because that's the idea, is if they are coming here, they should have a fresh start.
that's good.
Yeah.
And if they, ideally, they don't want other people to know either.
No,
So, but if they do, then it begins to escalate right away.
Yeah.
And they're told,
That
look,
makes
this is a fresh start, right? You don't need to be broadcast.
Yeah.
And they'd like to be back in school, and so they get that they don't want to broadcast. They'd
Okay.
like to, same way, if they're passing classes, we bring them in, they can still get the credits. Like a kid's a scalpel.
I was in school.
When you have.
But the girls used to look forward to stuff like that. Here comes a bad boy.
different than when we were in school.
Different. When I was in school, I was.
I don't think it's that different.
No,
Some things are.
Probably
For the
not.
students.
Yeah.
The only thing I see different is that back in the day, we were afraid of our parents.
Right.
Now the kids
Right.
Good point.
don't care.
Right.
There's no fear.
Oh, they're running things, the parents are running. things.
Yeah, and that, I feel sorry. And even my kids, I tell them, you have to be tough, don't give in, because they'll rule.
Yeah.
And my parents ruled, I didn't rule it.
Yeah.
Like the
True,
toughest
that is
plank,
different now.
the
Yeah.
toughest plank was from the shoulder to shoulder, my mom's shoulders. I did not want to come anywhere near that. For me to cross either one, I would.
Oh, yeah. It's true.
How about as far as enrollment, the Desert Hills School? Is that anything more on that, or do you wanna not talk about it?
We shouldn't talk about it.
Okay,
Uh,
we don't have to.
well, they're not gonna close it this year.
Oh,
And that's all I'd like to
okay,
say, because it really had, what's happened hasn't really been made public.
thank you.
You'd agree that's the appropriate.
That is correct.
Key cards, we're still waiting for our campus to be fully secured and accessible through key cards. I saw some emails going back through today that they're working on it again. So our campus still isn't secure, with our key card access. But same, we're doing evaluations. We are, getting to the end. I think we have two left, a formal event, 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 a formal. Based on what we've observed and kind of what next steps might need to be.
And then do a second evaluation.
Right, in the spring.
So the composition of the administrative team, the teachers from both schools.
The administrative team?
Yeah.
It would be Kara, Robert, and Linda here at the high school, and me and Linda.
Okay, you did discuss that in your report and in your report, so I just didn't understand who was on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right,
And in that regard, this semester, I'd really let Kara and Linda work on this. So it's an opportunity for her to go through that teacher evaluation.
Right.
for the school year.
And nothing to report on students really, beyond what we already talked about with early warning system and everything else. Any questions? Thank you. No, thank you.
Good, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay.
Meeting by Zoom and
We're doing that to, make it a little bit more efficient for Lanika and myself. People are certainly welcome to Tampa,
So no one can attend.
if one person wants to come in, how many would constitute a quorum?
4,
All right, so then we have to keep it at 3. So if you're not gonna show up,
then someone could.
then somebody can come
Yeah.
in. So I didn't want to exclude anybody, is what I'm trying to communicate, so. Mark, Lanika, and myself are committee members. Lanika was not available to attend. She did coordinate with me, so I appreciate that. Our meetings coincide with the board meetings each week and are held via Zoom. So, Lanika, in prior, finance committee meetings, we talked about the things we'd like to cover, so this will kind of be a recurring agenda.
group. And I'll just quickly go over it. Long-term financial goals, our long-term goals will unfold over time, so there's no extensive discussion required at this stage. That's more at, looking at the bigger picture, how we're bringing in revenue and getting students to approach our school and submit applications. Then I'll talk a little bit about
Marketing strategy in a second, but overall, the governing council receives 3 reports. The expenditures describes what we're spending, revenue is what we're bringing in, and then a balance sheet, which is basically a summary of our accounts and our holdings at Wells Fargo. So with respect to expenditures, we have successfully managed our expenditures with no issues, having received 17% of our budget so far. I did ask Irene to create a line chart. This is just an example. I'll hand it out. The concept here is to make these spreadsheets a little bit more visual. I don't have, any issues with
through an Excel spreadsheet, but some of you may, so we're trying to streamline that and get that information to you in front of your eyes, quickly, as opposed to going through pivot tables and the spreadsheets that we have. Nothing against spreadsheets, a very good set of data in those spreadsheets, however, they're very long. Additionally, we brought forward about
0.5 million in carryover from 2023. That's important. So when you look at the carryover plus the revenue coming in, that total is about 9.7 million. It's there on your chart in the blue line. Please note that if you do look at that report, there are over 350 entries and it's difficult to digest if you're not familiar with Microsoft Word, Excel, and pivot tables. So it is very extensive report, and hats off to you for going through that line by line. So I went through it line by line, but that's me. Everybody gets a copy of that report, correct, Irene? So
The condensed, the
yeah, you
packet.
get the condensed. So I got the full enchilada, if you will. So I did go through it. So far, everything looks, acceptable on the expenditure reports. With respect to the revenue for the current school year, our budget is 9.7 million. Actually, it's there in the blue line. As of the end of October, we have received 2.2 million of that funding. There are 30 revenue accounts with available funds, but no budget. If you do see that, don't worry about it. I understand what she's doing with that account. With respect to the balance sheet, currently we have 1.6 million in the bank, which constitutes 73% of what we have received, indicating that we've spent approximately 27 of our budget year to date. This is a preliminary estimate and may need further verification from Irene. I did some simple math, added spreadsheets, added the numbers. and did
Talking
some-
about 27%?
Yes, sir. In about two. I mean, expenses is a other way of saying unplanned expenses. Yes, there's no impact to our budget, so that's a good thing. However, there are some water leaks costing close to $36,000, which will be funded by House Bill 33 and Senate Bill 9. And hence there will not be an impact to our funding. Over time, I will reach out to you and Irene and Robert to better assess what expenses we weren't prepared to deal with. So that'll be an ongoing thing. Earlier, I talked about long-term financial goals. Another way of looking at it is the marketing strategy. We've discussed that on several occasions. It's all about getting students to enroll in our school. However, SWEPT, and I believe April, are handing out flyers, promoting our school.
And the student, right?
And the students also. And they will be having, or SWEPT will be having a community meeting in December. And that will help increase student enrollment. That's a good thing. However, when I did discuss this with Robert, he did ask me that the board should also consider additional marketing strategies to enhance our outreach and our enrollment activities. So we need to start thinking about that, not suggesting we do it today, perhaps at a future. Totally agree. Capital projects are funded by property taxes. Robert has successfully secured 1.2 million in funding through legislators.
That's the target.
That's the target. All right, good. All right.
We'll secure.
It's not in past tense.
That's all right. Cause you said we were gonna get it Friday and then,
So no, I have a meeting Friday with the folks that I'm working with, and the letters begin to be distributed. As opposed to waiting for the legislative session, we're doing our actual request, our paper request, starting tomorrow.
awesome.
Would you agree?
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, either way, I did put in the report, kudos to Robert for his effort.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. At the recent finance committee meeting, we discussed, it was, me and Mark, whether an additional 1.2 million is needed into the, in addition. Ask, if you will, is 1.2 million for capital outlay.
With what I believe is about 1.2 or 1.3 that we currently have, including the legislative appropriations in the past, and the House Bill 33 money that is held by APX.
Overall and in conclusion, the finance committee recommends that the board approve the financial packages submitted by Irene. There are two other topics on this section of the agenda. However, we will manage the bar by separate votes. So that's all I have for the team.
Okay.
It's also in your packet too. I know,
So,
sorry.
make a motion to approve his,
Oh, yeah. We need a motion to approve the finance committee. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Cash disbursements.
Total cash disbursements for October are $457,509.68. I will pull up the first portion of these. Let's see. Go down.
So so is that now P cards or?
Yes,
cards or
card.
whatever? So that's something that now we have.
Right, it's no longer
Yeah.
reimbursement to me.
Yeah, it was temporarily not available to use locally, but I guess mid-year last year is when they notified us, that 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 notified.
Oh,
On the way.
Yeah.
It's much easier to disperse and control, right, the card?
Yes. Well, and for me, the only way that we do it before is that, it came out of my pocket, reimbursed to me, so that people weren't filling up their own cars and so, and really, it's best, we've been told that if only one person on staff gets reimbursements,
Yeah.
so that it goes between Irene and I. And so if you need something on Amazon, I have a credit card that's just for RFK, so she uses that credit card to make the purchase to get reimbursed. And so the example here, where
Right there, 2000.
To, yeah, so hotels. Right.
Yeah.
And Design Plus is the architect.
It is.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? All right, if I could get a motion to approve the cash disbursements.
I'll make a motion to approve the cash disbursements.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have bars tonight?
We have one an initial budget for 246,000.
$279,343. It is for our lease assistance. We received our award, so I was able to squeeze it into our financials. And this is a wash. So, APS bills us, but they only bill us for this amount. And this is for the high school and middle school combined.
And that's it for the year. It's a one-time deal. Right?
Well, it's a reimbursable, so I have to pay APS. And then every quarter I submit my reimbursement request to PSCOC. Yeah, PSCOC for my reimbursement for the quarter.
And it's a net zero to the budget.
Yes.
It is. And so
Yeah.
They pay so much per student. That based on square foot.
And it went down about $20,000 from last year.
And so the,
Down meaning money to us.
yes,
Yeah.
money per student.
Mhm.
And then it decreases.
Yeah.
And so they look at, it's a certain pool of money. And so when there are more students that are in schools in the least reimbursement, it's just a smaller amount.
Okay.
And if that lease reimbursement went away, the arrangement with APS is there would be no charge for it. So that would help.
If we get zero, they get zero.
Okay.
I
Okay,
take
if I
it,
could get a motion to approve the bar.
I'll make a motion to approve the bar, but I do have a question. It's,
Oh, you do have a question.
no, I'm fine. I'm good. Okay.
or is it Carlos?
Carlos seconded. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, approved. Reduction in force.
All right, so decrease enrollment, on the 40 days. We're going to have a decrease in revenue at the end of December.
and it'll be reflected in February's findings.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that your expenditures were 457,000. So there was $1.5 million, in the budget that's available. And so $500,000 is going to go away. And so there are a number of reimbursable funds And really, I think there's about $750,000 in reimbursable funds.
Yeah.
And
Oh, is
so
that all? I thought there would be more.
I've stopped writing grants because of it. I have one more USDA grant I'm gonna submit. And then, I shift, and put grants under SWEPT, so it doesn't burn.
And
So, this is going to have an impact on the ability to start the work at the building. Because those are reimbursables. And so, I was.
now we wait to see how.
I do at the legislature, because I know I'll get something. And then I've got to at least replace, enough for us to be.
Yeah.
So I am concerned now, about, staff. And so we are gonna do a limited reduction in force. And then, based on the 120 day, it may need to be extended. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, it's just so that everybody could come in. And so I'm really trying to make this minimal. I'm going to spread it around the best I can. And I'm really going to kind of just chip away at things. And as much as I can, I'm going to move the costs to SWIFT, where I can. SWIFT is doing well with appropriations. And so, there's ceramics, being taught here this semester. I'm looking at replacing it here, with the paper mache project that's going on. It's being paid by SWIFT now and extending it, so there's an continued art project over here. So Ben McCracken will not have a contract for second semester. And so, there's small pieces. Person who does the reading support with Crispy. We're gonna move that money to SWIFT and pay it out of SWIFT. And so, but there is going to be some reduction in force. And I told people it might, I wasn't sure if it would happen, but, I'm looking at cutting $100,000 out of the RFK budget that I will not.
Operation.
Right, under operation. So, and I'm gonna do it for Christmas. Right, and so we've got the money now, but we're not gonna have the money later, right? And I need to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
You'd agree?
Yes.
My due diligence.
And it'll be on the growing part instead of the trimming. part.
Well, it, you know, in some ways, I'm describing it right now as the new normalization for RFK. Once the CTE pieces are in place, I think it's legitimate to grow. I think with the CTE in place, we can grow back an evening program, by having in the evening,
Right.
and they want to take them.
Well, that was successful previously there, the evening school.
Yes, right, but mostly because of the adults. And so, and the evening school, it does a little more than breaking even, but it used to generate an additional $600,000.
Right.
And so, I'm just informing the council. Irene is working with me to generate the letters.
Okay.
And it's in my report as well. So,
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Okay. Strategic planning session, student enrollment budget.
well,
I
that's
think
sort of what I just explained.
Yeah,
And the strategic plan,
Do it. But I do feel like, given the situation that we're looking at next year, we probably need to do other strategic this transition this year to the CTE expansion.
yeah.
go to recorders. And so part of it is with the CTE expansion, we will no longer pay the welding instructor that is currently coming out of the operational budget CNN board. The person that we're paying to do the film production class would no longer come out of RFK's budget, it would come out of CNM's budget. And so that's a shift of the burden from the operational budget to CNM. And as the CTE program grows, we will be able to increase the enrollment without increasing substantial cost. Now, we've still got to be a CTE teacher there, there's still got to be RFK staff there, but the biggest burden would be on those CTE teachers. And I've explained before that Rio Rancho is building a CTE facility. CNM is moving, for example, their automotive maintenance mechanics program to Rio Rancho. And so us offering a automotive mechanics program at our facility, CNM is very interested in, and that becomes the first choice of what students want to
Right,
do.
absolutely.
And so I feel like there's a plan, but
So the strategic planning session, we need to start scheduling that.
we do, and so beginning of next semester,
Okay.
we've got to figure that out.
Okay.
I think that's. I don't.
Okay, okay.
I think that's important that we keep that on the.
Absolutely, no, it's critical, it's critical, we got the charter, we got a new leader, we've got a change in the direction of the school.
Yeah.
We've got new boundaries and limits and all kinds of things going on, there's a lot of changes that are happening, so I reviewed our strategic plan from before, and it actually says 24 is when we need to do another one.
Right.
So that was kind of convenient. And it was a lot of the same points. I think we've been successful in those things that were put in that plan.
Yes.
So it's positive, we just need to do it again
Right.
with more moving parts.
And with the building, 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 with the building.
Thanks.
Yeah.
For the search update, contract's been signed. We have the first meeting,
Second.
December 2nd.
yeah. And that, so, and the design of that is that April, Lawrence, and myself are on the committee. And that committee is gonna be just the ones doing all the detail, making sure things are getting done, making sure questions are asked, getting answers. So if the board is being requested to give input, it'll be us on the committee that'll be coming and hunting you down, Carlos, in case if it might be you. We would come looking for you,
Okay.
just to be sure we get all of, we keep the process really clear, and keep it moving. A woman by the name of Alex is gonna be, the head of it. She's a director. She's been doing it for a long time. She has a company that does it all the time. So, that starts in December. Oh, and so then the second phase, once the kind of the detail initial stuff is taken care of, will be to have a larger committee that includes staff, includes parents, includes teacher, board, community people. And that would be the idea is in twofold in my mind. Number one, there's marketing opportunities in letting other people in the community know what we're doing here. And getting them involved and getting their ideas and their input. But just helping us round out exactly what kind of person we would like. Or would work and help us get where we want to go. So that's the kind of the process. So everyone, I am gonna be, Karen, gonna be asking, there's gonna be requests from you about your opinions, your perceptions, your all of that kind of stuff. It's just not gonna be on the committee. But we will reach out to get that information and take guidance, take input. Mark, you need to talk to this person, or here's a parent. We'll say, Aaron, give us community members, or whatever, because we want it to be broad. We really, this is a challenging kind of a spot, and so we want to really make sure we're casting a broad net, because it may be an unconventional something process. So anyway, I just want to keep everyone apprised of that, that it's gonna be, as 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 it. To that end, that means at this point, we're looking to have offers out in April of this year. I think that's our timeline.
Offers or announcing the positions open?
No, it's getting announced next month.
Okay.
No, we're hoping to have,
I'm
going through resumes already. Anyway,
Yeah,
so it's gonna be, it's happening. It's happening, Robert.
Yeah.
It's in action.
And it's.
You'll be the same as we are with.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not having to be on the
That's
committee.
right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, your report?
Yeah. So. Yeah, so did you pass that out?
Mhm, everyone has it in their packet.
And can we fill it up?
Yep.
And Clive's coming in, if he gets here before I'm done with my report, I'd like him just to talk about the CTE project that we're rolling out next semester.
Hang on, let me.
So the date of the
Last year's.
is now available for public, some of it won't publish. And so if you go to the top there, so to say New Mexico Vista,
Yeah, New Mexico Vistas.
right, so this is the website where all of this is kept. And so this is RFK's page. And so it's up just a little.
Can anyone go to that, Robert?
Yeah, anybody can,
General
yeah,
public. Well done.
So, and so you've got a printout,
Yeah.
that shows the charts.
Mhm.
But I think this is a good way to also look at it. So this is where we're at 36.9,
Calling this emerging or moving?
the right direction. And so they have a designation when you're not moving in that direction. But we're considered emerging. When we get to here, then we will no longer get MRI, no longer be considered MRI, but we will continue to get the funds for 2 more years. Don't scroll down.
Efficiency based on the SAT.
Doesn't look great, but it's
Oh, that
not,
was SAT is where that came from.
it's proficiency,
Efficiency.
right? And so the SAT is the proficiency exam,
Okay.
but this is improving.
I was gonna make a note of that from the last 5 of these that I've seen, it was hovered around 5% on everything.
Right, and it's 0,
Yeah, it's getting better. I mean,
and so I think
That's
that's what's important. And so, and this is how much, this is the improvement. In math and reading, so that's significant growth. 9.3 is the increase in graduation rate. And so do you see it says 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rates for the cohorts, plus the annual increase in the 4-year graduation rate over 3 years. So and we were in a meeting and somebody was saying that they don't count.
As you see, if you graduate in 3 years, you get
Part of 4-year graduation. So I wanted to point that out. And this is why we're emerging, because there's growth. And this is from last year, so.
And they're using SAT again this year.
They,
Is SAT.
so it's COVID, it was counted.
Right.
it is the graduation.
Oh, it is, okay.
And so this is the first year we've really done the PSAT in a significant way. Where, the students were put in the gym, just like the SAT. And next year I'm recommending, we do it for 10th graders.
To prepare them.
The more time they see it, the more comfortable they will. And so, I anticipate, the proficiency rates to go up if that becomes the strategy. So we scroll down a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so,
So click on, regular attendance,
46.1%, you said.
over there. Now, attendance is students that have 90% attendance or more. The previous year was 38%.
Ours was.
Ours was 38% the year before. This is last year's. And so it's growth. Now, I think 90%'s a little extreme. If a kid misses one day a week, it's 80%. I think if it were 80%, I think we'd do much better. But this is the 90%, so almost half of our students are coming 90% of the time. And so the target is 68%. And so students that are dragging us down are the students,
We're really being helped.
because I don't know,
Because it's a percentage.
because it's a percentage. And so I calculated the number of classes that they missed. Students that were below 60% were kids that were targeted. They're passing their classes, they were left alone. If they weren't passing any of their classes, they're not gonna help with the graduation rate. And we get most points for four-year graduates, less points for fifth-year graduates, even less points for sixth-year. And we share that graduation points with other schools. And so if they were 1 year at Rio Grande and then came here, and they graduated, Rio Grande gets 25% of our points. Because they were there 1/4 of the year. If they're at Atrisco Heritage for 2 years, earned credits or not, and they come here and graduate, Atrisco Heritage gets half our points. So we don't even really get credit for some of the work that we do.
Just a question, again, with graphs and standards and percentages and all that kind of stuff. So that 46 includes those kids that have we've now put out that are missing.
This is last year.
120. Well, okay, but even so, the kids, one kid missing 120
Yes,
is gonna be total number of kids and total number of days missed, correct? Is gonna be our percentage. You got,
yeah. Well, you'd have to take,
but so versus median,
no, it's not median, it's a percent that have 90% attendance or more.
yeah. Okay, so someone who doesn't bring that percentage down. Okay.
All right, and the way we did it, so there's 6 periods in a day, right? And so then there are 5 days a week. And then there were 14 weeks,
That generated
420 classes. Now, we didn't have school every day. So I took 20 classes off and 400 was the number. And so 40 is 10%. And so if you had 40, you were at 90%. So if you had 80, you were less, and then if you have 120, you're.
So,
No.
60. And no, 70, and so anybody that had more than 120 was flagged. But we were dropping kids with 200. Right, 230, right, and so those, so if you're close.
And that's not even, but that's not even yet the full, full 400. I mean, they got 200 already, and we've only had 300 classes.
400.
Total. The year isn't done yet.
No, 414 weeks.
But it's absence by
Oh, it's,
period.
we're at
Period.
14 weeks now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I
it was
thought
by
you were going
period.
by semester.
Periods.
Right, so it wasn't by days,
I got
it was
it, I
by
got it.
period.
Yeah.
Right. So, can you go back one, will it go back?
Hmm.
Yes, so I'd like you to look at college and career readiness. All right, so we're at 70%. And where's APS? APS, you see it all over there?
On the left.
APS is at 42%. And RFK is at 70% dual enrollment, and career opportunities. And that was one of the goals several years ago. That's the percentage that what people wanted to work with. So that's really related to dual enrollment and employment. So can you back on that one?
Yeah.
Um, yes. So, see, school climate, we won't see that until January.
Right.
So I just, you guys have the charts? Right? with
In the package, yeah.
Right, so if you look at some of
We've got the
those,
charts, yeah.
it compares RFK to APS.
And to the Mexico.
To New Mexico. And so there are parts of that where RFK is really outperforming APS. And even, so even if you look at attendance, attendance now.
Yep.
And so, you see here, this is all, we're at 46, they're at 50, right? And that's APS. And so we are not far off, based on attendance compared to APS, right? And so 46 doesn't sound good, but APS is at 50, right? And so I think it's important to keep that in perspective. And our target is 68. Our kids are behind. I think our kids need to be here to show the.
What does masked mean in this report? Not reported?
Small, too small of a.
That was my question.
It's hidden because it's too small to really.
It's
use it
0.001
for
compared to.
5 kids.
Yeah.
Right, and so. So
So we don't have. I don't see our attendance in our charts.
It should be, it's the whole report. I mean, they're two-sided also.
Yeah, no, I see that, but I see that.
But that will be in this. 46.
Okay. Oh, it's down at the
So I prefer the chart to compare, you know, as opposed to.
Yeah,
But-
that data is stabilized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's because when you go to print, it was
Nationally, they do this as well, correct?
so that would be the neighbor.
Yeah, so I've seen the NAEP scores. That's what's refreshing my memory, is that we are moving up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's growth. Growth is growth.
Yeah, and that's,
One foot, one step at a time, however, 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, right?
and so PED recognizing that, I don't know, they thought we'd be off of MRI pretty quick, right? But I don't think it's gonna be that quick, so we're moving in the right. But if we don't do what we did this week, then we're not moving in that direction. And I think graduation rate's gonna be interesting. I think there's 60-some kids on the graduation list. So the number of kids is shrinking, but the number of seniors is growing. So the denominator will be shrinking, but the numerator is growing. And so I anticipate our graduation rate to continue to improve.
Every year it gets higher and higher.
The number gets higher, right? But if you have 450 and you have 60, then that's not necessarily growing. So this just came out recently, it hasn't been available till this board meeting, and I just wanted to share.
Cool, that's awesome.
You know,
No.
oh, I think the new administrative evaluation system. I'm
Oh,
going
yeah.
to start working on that for Thanksgiving with the administrative team. House is no longer, they've got a
Right.
new evaluation.
Yeah.
I'll be meeting with the administrative team.
Well, this is great information and it's really nice on the website that Irene, you've got up there as compared to these charts, because you can go in and look at.
You can, yeah. Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
yeah, and comparing it to APS.
mhm.
Which is interesting, because, you know, I always was thought they would be blowing this off out of the water. Now we're.
Well, so their graduation rates significant.
Yeah.
Right, and so. But to me, this is the difference. Last choice, the first choice is direction.
Yeah, and APS data covers the whole city. So you look at the Heights data and then South Valley data and then International District data.
It's not hideously,
Disqualified.
yeah, it's not, so it's interesting.
So their graduation rate's 60%.
Yeah, but the graduation, there was other scores
Other
where,
scores that, their scores, our growth is bigger than theirs.
yeah, so, which is interesting.
Well, we definitely have room to get more growth.
That's how I look at it, plenty of room for improvement.
That's right, we're starting. Where we're starting.
Well, what
So,
I was getting at when I looked at data and I looked at the different schools, if you just look at different schools in different sectors,
Yeah.
there's this perception that certain areas are gonna outperform other kids.
Right.
Not necessarily true. So that tells me something about the methods of teaching that are being deployed here, that they're equivalent to the methods of teaching being taught in other areas, which is a good thing, so. That's how I interpret the data when I looked at it. And I was going, why is that different? Because I always thought this would be way higher for this district. And it's not.
so I'm the chair of the South Valley Academy Council. They have 90% graduation rate. So when they looked at their growth, it was less than 2%.
Yeah, because everybody's
Right.
Yeah.
If you're at 90%, it's tough to edge it up.
Yeah.
So that's where we've got the advantage, right?
Our growth.
But it does go back to the work that you're doing at Gallup and going out there and seeing the pathways and how that's being done.
Bob has,
Yeah, I've got a,
Bob has a question.
yeah, one thing surprises me is that the 70% career and college prep for RFK, where the 3% at grade level for math and 18% at grade level for reading seem to be out of sync. Help me understand that better.
Based on the SAT.
Tell me again.
It's based on the SAT.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right. And so the SATs taken in 11th grade, right? And so, some of the students get here and they're in the 10th grade and they haven't been here very long, right? And the SAT is a college entrance exam, not a high school graduation exam.
Right.
Now, the SAT is now changed. And they actually changed the exam to make it more related to a high school graduation. And so,
Colleges aren't using it.
yeah, I know, and so it's just, when you change the test, it's really not consistent when you're collecting the data. And so I'm sure they're trying to increase APS at graduation rate.
If they change the test to something else,
Start all over and where are we? And so, and they're looking at doing that, but if they're gonna use
taking the PSAT in ninth grade, 10th grade, prepares them better for the SAT. It's a comfort level. Good to see you. Clark.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes,
which is why we're using the STARS testing.
okay,
To be able to show growth during the year, right? So that we can collect our own data to show growth from the time they get here to the end of that semester, to the end of the next semester, so that over time, we can track the growth of those students.
and the growth is pretty impressive.
It's, well, because of where we're at,
Yeah.
but there's still plenty of room, but what needs to be looked at, the increase in graduation rate, the 70% in college and career, those are the things that are important for us to pay attention. Because that's what the state's gonna do. Right,
Okay,
so can I give part of my time to slide? Do you want to talk about, my director's report? And I was hoping we'd get here before I was done. You want to talk about what we're doing?
filibustering.
Okay, hello, everybody. Speaking of CTE, so I'm here to talk about a collaboration partnership with CNM Ingenuity. CNM Ingenuity is kind of like the for-profit side of CNM. They can design courses and programs more quickly. They provide a lot of things that CNM, the college, can't provide. One of the things they're providing, we have a partnership with RFK, South Valley Academy, and Mark Armijo charter schools. And what CNM Ingenuity is going to be doing is providing it's kind of a three-part training program. It'll be for students and for adults. The student piece is it's a entrepreneurship training that'll be done in part by SWEPT, a college and professional skills training, which will include things like goal setting, writing skills, interviewing, presentation skills, those kinds of things. But the thing that a lot of us are most excited about is what's called the pathway to the trades. And that is where CNM is designing curriculum to provide like introductory courses to students in the area of electrical, HVAC, carpentry, and plumbing. So students will get an introduction to that. They're short courses. I think there's like maybe 12 hours each one. So it's going to be relatively short, but it's going to be an introductory and it's primarily going to be hands-on. So there will be equipment and tools used for that. And they're also part of this. High school students, so we to kind of be creative. So the adult portion will be primarily for the entrepreneurship piece. So the entrepreneurship piece, there'll be a daytime and an afternoon piece for adults. Students can attend the adult session, but adults can attend the student session. And that will run 4 days a week from 4 to 6 p.m. For the adults. The CNM Ingenuity, after all the training is over, is going to continue the services with enrollment assistance for anybody that's interested in taking classes at CNM. That's kind of a no-brainer. Internship placements and what we call an education equivalency analysis. And what that is a lot of students, parents, I know my time at CNM, I saw a lot of this where people would come from different countries. They may have a degree from their country. They may be lawyers and doctors and things of that nature. But their degree is not recognized in the US. So what CNM will be doing is for anybody in that situation that this coursework that's taken from another country, they will go through that evaluation process at CNM to try to get those transferred over as US courses. It's not always gonna happen, but in many cases it does.
So somebody could be an electrician in another country, come get that credited, exit.
Yeah, that I'm not practicing a lot of nurses and we're
Yep.
short of nurses.
Right, and they're working as,
Yeah.
some menial jobs and when
Daycare.
they're skilled, they're talented, yeah, it's just that they don't have the credentials. So,
Is there gonna be an app process for the kids? So in other words, I'm a freshman and
We're aiming at 11th to 12th graders.
Okay, okay. But so even for me, pathway. How the hell does eighth grader know they want to be when they grow up? So electrician, I mean, does CNM have sort of an aptitude test or assessment or something? So I know what class to go try?
so CNM uses, there's not something that's specific to CNM. They use, there's a lot of different,
Inventory,
the career assessment.
Yeah,
inventory.
okay, all right.
There's some that they use, there's one that's on their website that, and it asks questions,
Yeah.
like a lot of assessments work.
Right.
And it kind of guides students as to what occupations would. They have conversations with the academic advisors, or, they'll take
And
an
our
introductory
kids will have the
class.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, we do
I'm
it.
just curious.
We do it now.
Some of the
Oh, we
advisory
do?
classes here.
And so really it's to expose students to things that they may or may not be interested in. And it's really a nice bridge to what Kara and Aaron were talking about, because they don't know what they want to do. And so the idea is that 12th graders, because part of what RFK is doing, by the time you get to 11th grade, you're supposed to begin to identify
Yeah.
some sort of a career pathway.
Right.
And so this really gives them kind of some exposure, and then there'll be field trips and, so that they can really go up and check it out. And then SWEP's going to look for actual contractors from the community that come in and work with the adults in the evening. And this adults don't belong on campus during the day. And so, but students can come in the evening, and participate with the adults.
Great.
So, this is a big step for us with Ingenuity. The idea is to move away from Ingenuity next year and go directly towards CNM. So that the CNM teachers are coming down and doing this. Ingenuity is a for-profit piece,
I got it.
right? And so this is out of a legislative appropriation, and that appropriation is good for next year as well. And so this really is part of that transition to the new facility in CTE.
And there's a lot of talk of, Capstone lately. Well, I'm sure, I know Capstone has been around for a while, but the schedule for these courses, all of these, even the professional skills, the skill entrepreneurship, in between, when one session ends and before the other one begins, there's a day or two off so that students can incorporate what they've learned into their capstone projects.
And we've moved Capstone in the schedule, so it's not in conflict with it.
And then they will get CNM Ingenuity certifications. Actually, they'll get OSHA, lockout, tagout, and CPR. Those are industry recognized certifications. But they'll also get, some certificates for the other.
Then I'll go with their digital book. Thanks for getting.
Any questions?
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, on lockout tagauts, we use that where I used to work at all the time.
Yeah, I didn't even know what that was.
What is that?
When you go to an electrical panel,
Yeah.
when we de-energize it, you have to lock it out and tag it out saying that.
It's
That
been done.
it's been,
Oh,
and there's a
that-
tag.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
lock them.
Yeah.
And we do that on nuclear weapons too.
Well,
So,
thank you.
So when we lock
Put a
out,
red
tag
thing.
out, so when we hire technicians that understand those concepts, that's what that 3 weeks I spent in Amarillo was going through that same. You didn't lock out, tag out these things, so it's very useful skills and we do recommend.
Tag out.
Bob, do you have any comments or questions? We feel like we ignored you.
I'm good, yeah. Clive, I really appreciate your feedback on this, and I'm looking forward to talking with you and seeing how we can support getting some of this going in a broader way with CNM.
I look forward to our meeting, Bob. And I'm meeting with South Valley Academy and Mark Armijo on Monday to kind of work out a lot of the details.
They're gonna be invited to participate during the day. If we fill it with RFK, we're gonna make sure we fill it. And then they could then also attend the meeting.
And we do have there's an application process, there's applications that they fill out. The intent is to screen them, interview them, make sure they know what they're getting into and make sure they're making a commitment.
And they're gonna show up.
The students?
For the program.
The students?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, I
So
just.
now they're grown up,
I wasn't with
no
John.
more kids. They're grown up.
By the way, I had lunch with my son and grandson, we had spaghetti. And then my grandson asked, you've already heard, my grandson asked, did you hear about the Italian chef? He possibly.
How old is he? How old is he?
14.
Oh.
Jokes.
Talent show and let them do comedy.
Yep,
I got so many kids, are you doing comedy?
Yeah, I brought the stack of applications, if you wanted to look them over.
Yeah.
And,
This will do?
no, this is just a one sheet flyer that
I'll do the one
I'll,
sheet.
I'll run to my office and get more of those, cause
So we can sign up for this?
That would be
you can sign up, but you'll have to go through the interview.
And I have to say, the application's got a lot of writing to it, we're really looking for people that are making.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, I have a lot of young,
Right on.
guys are just workers.
Yeah.
They're ready
You get
to
certifications and
get
get
their
exposure.
And they're not. Thanks,
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Aaron.
Okay.
I think they're gonna motion.
I didn't know it's called for the most out.
Housekeeping. Thank you. You guys can.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ty.
Getting their training hours. Most everyone has it. I think April and I are. Yeah, great.
We know.
What's that? Bios for the website, right?
It's the two I'm missing. I've already, yeah.
Mine got sent,
As a resident.
So he's gonna
You
see
sent
what
to
now.
me
uh,
your,
I think a paragraph or two, my wife has to focus on this.
she was gonna send it to me?
I thought we had.
I'll look.
Yeah. So I don't have to make yours up.
I'll look
You
for
don't
it.
have to make mine up either.
Oh, you gave me carte blanche?
Run it through
Señorita?
Chat GPT. If you take that resume and say, write me a paragraph summarizing this. It'll do it.
What is it?
It will, it's called Chat GPT. It's artificial intelligence.
Chat.
I haven't ever used it.
If you took your resume and you
Yeah.
copied and pasted, said, please summarize this in
P.
one paragraph, it'll do just.
I may try and check.
It'll rewrite,
Alright.
please rewrite
So,
So,
or summarize. You can put please
Oh, yeah.
summarize.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
okay, so, committee updates, I think we've got committee, building committee, search committee. So if I could get a motion to close the meeting, adjourn the
I'll
meeting.
make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 6:14.
We're done.